The morning light in Monterey was silver and cold, the kind that makes glass look like it's holding its breath. Elena sat by the window of the hotel restaurant, her hands around a cup of coffee gone cold long before she touched it. Across the table, Daniel Cole was charming in his usual, effortless way, talking to the waitress about jazz, sunlight, and the best breakfast in town. Adrian, by contrast, was all stillness and silence. His spoon stirred his coffee once, twice, then stopped. It was a breakfast built on unspoken tension. Miss Elena, one of the women from the accounting team, said, with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, "You seem very comfortable calling Mr. Cole by his first name." Elena looked up, startled. "It's only because of the work situation," she said quickly. "He asked me to." "Did he?" the woman replied, eyebrows arched. "How nice. I suppose not all of us get such privileges." Adrian's gaze lifted slowly from his cup, and the quiet of his attention cut through the room like a blade. "If you're done with breakfast," he said, "the files for today's meeting better be correct. No mistakes." "Yes, sir," Elena murmured, heart tightening. The drive to the client site was long, the highway slicing through coastal cliffs and salt wind. Elena sat in the back seat, holding a stack of folders against her chest. But Adrian reached back without turning. "Front seat," he said. She obeyed, sliding into the passenger seat beside him. The air smelled faintly of cedar and rain. She handed him the papers one by one, reading aloud the notes she had stayed up rewriting until dawn. The car jolted suddenly as they hit a bump, and the folders flew. She caught them too late, and the momentum sent her forward. Against Adrian's shoulder, for one suspended heartbeat, neither moved. His hand came up instinctively, steadying her by the wrist. The silence swelled between them like the tide. "Watch yourself," he said finally, voice low. She nodded, face burning. By the time they reached the resort, the air between them was heavy and careful. The receptionist apologized, only 3 rooms left. The 2 senior executives would, of course, each take one. That left the assistants, Elena and her sharp-tongued colleague, to share the last. The look the woman gave her was pure poison. That evening, Adrian called Elena aside. He was standing near the glass doors of the lobby, phone in hand, rain streaking down the panes behind him. "I heard about the marriage arrangement," he said without preamble. "The man your mother is trying to make you marry." Elena froze. How do you know that?" "People talk," he said, "and because apparently the man she's trying to force you to marry is me." For a moment, all she could do was stare. That's not possible, she whispered. Adrian's eyes softened with something like regret. It was meant to be a business arrangement. I turned it down. Her heart was thundering. I knew she wanted to sell you, he said quietly, but I didn't know she was selling to me. A call interrupted them, his phone vibrating on the counter. Adrian looked at the screen, then glanced back at her. You should rest, he said. We have a long day tomorrow. But when he walked away, Elena felt the floor tilt beneath her. The ghost of her mother's voice followed her like static. You were born to repay me, nothing more. Later that night, her brother's name flashed on her phone. The message was short. He's sick again. Hospital says we can't pay for another week. Her chest tightened. Guilt, panic, love. They all braided together until she couldn't breathe. The meeting was postponed until morning. Daniel, ever restless, appeared at her door with a grin. Work can wait, he said. You, me, Thomas. We're going to see the ocean. Mr. Thomas protested but followed. The drive down to the beach was quiet. The sky was bruised with the last light of dusk. Daniel rolled down the windows, letting the wind rush in. Elena closed her eyes. For the first time in days, she felt air that wasn't owned by anyone. You always look like you're holding your breath, Daniel said softly. She smiled faintly. Maybe I'm waiting to see if I can still breathe. Adrian found them an hour later. His car stopped beside theirs, headlights sweeping the sand. He got out, the wind flattening his hair, his expression unreadable. This is how you handle responsibility, he said sharply to Daniel. Daniel laughed. You mean living? Adrian's jaw tightened. Get back, both of you. The walk back up the rocky path was steep. Elena tripped once, scraping her knee. Adrian turned instantly, careless. He muttered, but then crouched down. Get on, he said. She blinked. What? On my back, before you make it worse. For a long moment, she hesitated. Then she placed her hands on his shoulders, feeling the solid warmth beneath the fabric, the strange intimacy of trust. He carried her up the path without a word. From below, Daniel watched, a flicker of something complicated in his eyes. Back at the resort, the jealous glances of others were knives in the dark. Elena felt them even as Adrian set her down, muttering, "Try not to make me regret helping." But regret was not what she felt. It was gravity. That night, as she lay awake listening to the sea, she realized the most dangerous thing wasn't his temper or her fear. It was the way his small kindnesses made her believe she could stay. Tomorrow, she would have to choose again between duty and desire, and for the first time, she wasn't sure which world she belonged to. The morning began with glass weather clear, brittle, unforgiving. Elena woke before her alarm, the ocean a low engine beyond the curtains. In the mirror, the bruise on her knee had turned the color of old figs. She covered it with a flesh-tone patch and a patience she did not feel. Downstairs, the conference room had been dressed like a promise water in narrow bottles. Pens aligned like small soldiers. The company logo projected in a blue that wanted to be trusted. The accounting team filed in with their laptops and their well-practiced competence. Adrian arrived last, carrying nothing, which was somehow the same as carrying the room. He didn't look at Elena when he said, "We're on the hour." No slack, no improvisation. "Yes, sir," she replied, and hated the tremor in the second word. The first 40 minutes moved like choreography, P&L, CAPEX, debt schedule. Adrian's voice trimmed the fat from every sentence. Daniel colored the margins with a joke, exactly when the air required oxygen. Elena advanced the deck, handed over the supporting docs on cue, restacked the folders each time a page changed hands. Work as a ritual against panic. Then the ritual snapped. "Let's see the supplemental," the client COO said. The vendor audit appendix. Elena reached for the folder labeled CUPPC. It should have been there clipped, tabbed, impossible to miss. Her fingers found paper and then a nothing that widened. She checked the next folder, then the one beneath it. The absence began to sing. Her heart rose into her throat. She kept her voice level. One moment. She checked again, slower, like the file would be shamed into existence by method. Across the table, the jealous colleague Melissa watched with an innocence, practiced enough to be an alibi. Adrian turned a fraction. "Where is it?" Elena swallowed. "It was here when we left the prep room." "It is not here now," he said. The room cooled by 2 degrees. She felt the old reflex apologize first, breathe later. She resisted it. "I'll retrieve a digital copy," she said, already opening her laptop. The COO raised a hand. "It's fine. We can push the appendix to tomorrow. Fine. Tomorrow." Words that sounded like mercy and landed like a dent. The meeting ended cleanly, politely. That is how reputations get scratched in rooms where nobody raises their voice. Outside, in the corridor, Adrian faced her, not close enough to intimidate, close enough to remove excuses. "I told you yesterday," he said, each word a measured cut, no mistakes. "I checked the binders twice." "Then you didn't check them right." Heat raced up her neck. She held it down with discipline. "I'll find it. You'll rebuild it." he corrected. Assume it's gone. Melissa materialized like the echo of a rumor. If I can help, I'm available, she said sweetly. I noticed the appendix wasn't stapled into the packet last night, but I thought Adrian turned to her. Noted the corporate version of I will remember where you were when the house burned. He looked back at Elena. You have 6 hours. Yes, she said. She did not add, sir. She set up in the small business center off the lobby, the air conditioner ranting in an upper vent. Data poured onto the screen like rain on a windshield. Vendor names, invoice numbers, remediation notes. She built the appendix again from memory and the skeletal spreadsheet the client's team had sent a week before. She called their AP clerk with questions that were not questions. She wrote the findings in a tone that bore weight, but not doom. Every 15 minutes, she saved to 3 places. Every hour, she walked once around the room to convince her body she still had one. At noon, Melissa slid in with a paper cup. Lemon water, she announced. Adrian's stomach can't handle wine at dinner. He always asks for lemon water around 5. Did you know I know? Elena said, not looking up. He's hard on you. Melissa continued, voice softening into a cousin of pity. It's not fair. You show up, do your best. And still, she shrugged. Some people are never satisfied, Elena kept typing. The appendix will be ready. That's not what I meant. I know what you meant. A pause. Melissa's perfume sharp. Sugary bloomed too loudly in the little room. We all have to protect ourselves, Melissa whispered, especially from men who confuse proximity with loyalty. Elena turned then, slowly. I don't need proximity, she said. I need a complete PDF. Melissa smiled, but her eyes did not. Of course. When she left, Elena checked the physical folders again on the bottom of the stack. A new smear, a faint crescent of sticky residue where a clip should have been. The kind left by a label peeled off with care. Someone had removed something with intent and then had given her a drink. The lemon water sat on the corner of the table like a benign invention. Elena carried it to the sink and poured it out. On the rim, a fingerprint she did not own. By 6, the appendix lived again clean, indexed, paginated, unarguable. She printed 2 hard copies and slid them into sleeves that would not fail. She walked the halls once, twice, rehearsing a smile that admitted effort, but not panic. The dinner was held under a canopy of Edison bulbs that made everyone attractive and no one honest. Adrian endured wine he did not want with the resignation of a man who understood ritual sacrifice. Daniel worked the table like a benevolent thief who steals tension and leaves laughter in its place. Halfway through the entrees, Elena rose to refill a glass. She returned to find the lemon water already at Adrian's elbow, condensation sweating like a warning. "I didn't," she began. "I know," he said, glancing at the glass. He did not drink. Across the table, Melissa lifted her own wine, smiled at Elena over the rim. The smile said, "Isn't it warm in here?" The eyes said, "Watch me light a match." The COO proposed a toast. Chairs scraped, glasses lifted. Elena's hand shook and the lemon water slipped, struck the edge of the plate, exploded into a drama of glass and citrus that the room received with a single, appalled inhalation. "I'm so sorry," she said instantly, and hated herself for the speed. "It's fine," the COO said, dabbing at a sleeve. "Accidents happen, but accidents do not happen twice in the same direction." Melissa's voice rose, thin with injured grace. "She's been on edge all day. She confided to no one and everyone. It's a lot of pressure." Daniel's chair moved back. "Enough," he said lightly, and then, not lightly at all, "We're done performing guilt for sport." He stood, came around, and with a gallantry that had no arrogance, placed a hand at Elena's back. Fresh air. Adrian did not object. He didn't nod either. He simply watched them go with a stillness that could cool a fever. Outside, the air was marine and clean. Daniel tilted his head toward the dark Pacific. "You okay?" "I rebuilt the appendix," she said, "but I can't rebuild a room." "Rooms forget," he said. "People pretend they remember because it makes them feel important." She exhaled, the sound halfway between a laugh and surrender. "You always say exactly what I need and almost nothing I want. That's my brand," he said, smiling. When they returned, dessert had arrived and tensions had migrated to other hosts. Melissa's nose was pink, her eyes bright with useful tears. She apologized in Elena's direction for creating drama, the kind of apology that erases the original harm by calling it a mood. The night ended in separate elevators. That is how nights end when people plan to continue the fight in their dreams. The hotel corridor at midnight is its own country carpet that drinks sound. Doors that hold secrets the way good hands hold water carefully, imperfectly. Elena opened the shared room to find Melissa already in bed, the lamp on, the light performatively dim. "I'm tired," Melissa said to the ceiling. "Tomorrow will be worse if we don't sleep." Elena nodded, changed in the bathroom, returned with her phone and a stubborn quiet. She set an alarm, turned off the lamp. Darkness. "You're very pretty," Melissa said into it. "Thank you." "It must be convenient," Melissa continued softly. When men mistake competence for chemistry, Elena stared at the invisible ceiling. It's inconvenient. Actually, when women mistake projection for proof, silence became a wire strung tight between their beds. You shouldn't be alone with him, Melissa whispered finally. I am not alone with him. You are. Even now, in your head, I can hear it. Elena sat up. The room arranged itself into edges. Say what you came here to say. Melissa's voice found a brittle courage. He's using you. Daniel is playing with you. And you. Her breath hitched. You are not special. You are new. Elena's body moved before her training caught it. The lamp snapped on. Melissa flinched. Words collided. Hands followed. The slap, when it came, shocked them both. It landed like a history test you didn't study for recognizable. Humiliating. Inevitable. Melissa stumbled, struck the dresser, slid to the carpet in a soft collapse that felt staged, and then horribly not. She didn't move. Elena's chest seized. Melissa. No answer. The air left the room. Training returned useless. Immediate. Elena dialed. The number burned through to Adrian faster than shame could. He arrived with Thomas in less than a minute that felt longer. He did not demand context. He checked Melissa's pulse, lifted her with a care that did not coddle, set her on the bed, elevated her feet, called the front desk with a voice that made policy run. Thomas adjusted the pillow. Adrian turned to Elena. What happened? We fought. I pushed. She fell. His eyes did not blink. Leave the room. She might need Thomas's here. Out. In the corridor. She pressed back against wallpaper that smelled like lemon and anonymous. Her hands shook. Rage and regret took turns with her pulse. The door opened. Adrian stepped out, closing it softly behind him. She'll be fine. Adrenaline faint. No concussion. Save the apology. His voice had cooled from flame to steel. Pack your bag. What? You're not staying in that room. Where then? He held out his keycard. Mine. She flinched. That's not. You'll take the bed, he said. I'll take the couch. At 5. We go to the client. At 8. We close this. At 9. You can have your breakdown. Something unclenched in her. You're angry, Sho. I'm occupied, he said. Anger is a luxury. Tonight we pay our debt with competence. His suite smelled faintly of cedar and rain again, which felt rude of the universe. He tossed a spare t-shirt and sweats on the bed without looking at her. Bathroom's there. Lock the door. She changed. Sat on the edge of a bed too wide to deserve one person. Adrian took the couch with the resignation of a man who had slept in worse rooms for better reasons. The silence between them learned how to breathe. "Thank you," she said finally. He answered the ceiling. "You don't need to thank me for what I should have prevented." She frowned. "Prevented I put you in that room," he said. "That's a decision with a consequence. Tonight is mine." She lay back. The ceiling's texture looked like static. "You're kind in ways I don't trust yet." "Then consider me practical," he said. "Practical men hate loose ends. You are not one of them." She smiled despite herself. "Good night, Mr. Cole. Sleep," he said. "Morning is unforgiving." Morning proved him right. The appendix printed clean. The client satisfied. The deal moved to the next hinge. Melissa arrived with a delicate bandage and a more delicate story. I fainted. It happens when I'm under pressure, which the room accepted, because it preferred tidy fictions to messy truths. Elena let it stand, not for Melissa, for the work. At 10, Adrian did something Elena didn't predict. He canceled the afternoon slate, told Daniel to chair the vendor call, and told Thomas to get the car. "We're leaving," he said to Elena. "Leaving, we're off the clock. I have follow-ups. You have me." He held the door. "That is the follow-up." She almost argued. Then she saw the stubborn line in his jaw that meant, "I will not explain kindness twice." She followed. The boat was a local's boat. Scuffed, honest, the paint the color of patient sky. The owner nodded to Adrian like a man who remembered debts neither would name. The water took them without conversation. Horizon folded in a careful seam. Elena sat forward, then back, then forward again, the sea tilting both her stomach and her certainty. Adrian moved to her side, offered no sympathy, only an angle against which to lean. "Breathe through your nose," he said softly. "Pretend you're not afraid of motion. Who says I am? Your hands." She looked down. They clutched the rail the way a child clutches a plan, at the floating house where the fishermen sold lunch to the faithful. Adrian ordered like a regular crab the old way. Rice, a broth that tasted like honesty. When the owner's wife asked who Elena was, Adrian answered without hesitation. "My assistant," he said. Then he refilled Elena's bowl before his own. Assistant. The label arrived plain. The actions complicated it into something else entirely. On the ride back, a squall gathered as if they'd offended a god. Rain knifed across the deck. Thunder spoke in a language Elena's childhood remembered too well, the backyard in a storm. Her mother's voice punishing the sky into her skin. She folded in on herself, small, smaller, a pose she had outgrown in theory and not yet in practice. Adrian's coat was around her before she saw him move. He pulled her into the lee of the cabin, bracketed her from the wind with his body still not touching. Not quite, except where protections require contact. "It's just weather," he said. "It wasn't," she answered, voice breaking. He didn't tell her to be strong. He absorbed the rain, absorbed the sound. And when the boat hit a seam in the water that threw her against him, he held, not like a lover, like a wall that had chosen not to fall. They reached the pier shivering. The owner handed over a key to a room above the dock bed. Kettle, the ghost of a television. Adrian put her under a blanket and went to pace the floor until his body remembered heat. 10 minutes later, he coughed, then again, then sat down too fast. "You're burning," she said, hand on his forehead before permission. "It will pass," he muttered. It did not. Fever took him as if reclaiming a debt her storm had incurred. She boiled water, found a cloth, learned the map of his face through the simple work of lowering heat. In the half-light, his lashes looked absurdly young. He dreamed with his hands clenched, a man who fought even asleep. At 3, the fever broke. At 4, he opened his eyes, met the sight of her bent over him like a fact he could not file. "If you wanted to touch me," he said, voice a sandpaper joke, "you should have scheduled it." She set the cloth down. "I'll add it to the appendix." He smiled, then, brief, unguarded. "Drive us back," he murmured. "Before I invent reasons to stay, you can barely stand, then stand for me." She did. The road back traced the coast like a scar with a good story. He slept with his head against the window, and the reflection made them look, for one soft, dangerous mile, like a life. At the hospital, the day went fluorescent. The nurse at the desk knew Elena by cadence now. "Your brother's chart is in review. Insurance flagged the new meds. Translated no money, no medicine." Elena nodded, that awful adult nod that turns panic into logistics. As she turned, she collided with a woman whose perfume entered rooms like a herald. The woman steadied Elena by the elbows and then brightened in recognition. "You," she said, "the girl from the fundraiser, the one who didn't ask for anything." Elena blinked. Yes." The woman wealth wrapped around a spine that remembered poverty, took in the scene, with algorithms only the experienced possess. "How much?" Elena tried to explain dignity. The woman interrupted with math. "Good," she said after the number. "I'll have my son wire it by noon." She lowered her voice. "I met your mother, your other mother once. I recognize a leash when I see one." "Cut it." By evening, the wire had landed. A notary arrived like a sacrament. Papers were signed that said paid in full, no further obligation. Violet raged in the background with the wild grief of someone who had lost her favorite mirror. Michael, pale and brave, reached for Elena's hand and said, "If you hadn't stayed, there would be no me left to save." She went outside to cry in private and found Adrian waiting by the curb. Suit wrinkled, patience not. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't need to. The relief in her face told the story, and the exhaustion told the price. "Let's go," he said. "To the hotel, to inside," he said, "to the rest of the day." It should have ended there. It didn't. Back at the hotel, Elena opened her suitcase to find its contents rearranged with the precision of malice. Blouses folded inside out, toiletries uncapped, a favorite scarf mottled with something that had dried into disrespect, the petty vandalism of the threatened. She repacked without ceremony and walked down the hall to Melissa's door. She knocked. When the door opened, Elena placed the scarf on the threshold. "Next time," she said evenly, "be brave enough to use your name." Melissa's face rearranged itself into the bland, "I don't know what you mean. You never do," Elena said, "until someone tells you." She turned away. A thud sounded behind her, then a cry. Elena looked back to see Melissa on the carpet, hand to her nose, blood surprised into her palm. 2 doors opened. Footsteps multiplied the problem. Melissa wailed. "She hit me, because that is what fear says when it wants company." Elena stood very still. "Call security," she told a bystander. "And Mr. Cole?" Adrian arrived with the efficiency of consequence. He took in blood, carpet, eyes. He asked no witnesses for their theater. He asked Melissa for her account, listened without interruption, and then asked Elena for hers. She started the rumor, Elena said, voice steady. She staged the evidence. I knocked. I spoke. She fell. Convenient. Melissa sniffled. Gravity usually is. Elena replied. Adrian glanced at security. Have the footage pulled from this wing for the last hour, he said. If there's nothing, we'll assume everything. When the guards left, his phone rang. He answered, listened. His face made a small, definitive decision. Your brother, he said to Elena. It's bad. He looked at Daniel, who had just arrived, shirt untucked, hair a question. Stay. Close the loop with security. Prepare a statement if we need one. Daniel nodded, eyes on Elena. I'll handle this. Adrian held out his keys. Come on. I can take a cab, she said. And someday I'll let you. They walked. The elevator hummed. In the car, the night had already started to turn into tomorrow. He drove as if speed could gilt the distance into cooperation. She stared out the window at a city blinking its slow language. Between the beats of the traffic lights, a thought presented itself. Not all rescues erase you. Some just offer you a seatbelt. She closed her eyes and rested her head back. Thank you, she said into the kind dark. He didn't answer with words. His hand found the climate dial and nudged the temperature 2 clicks warmer. Outside, the highway opened its long, merciful throat. The day had taken what it wanted. The night would decide what it left. The sky over the marina wore a color that didn't have a name, somewhere between steel and forgiveness. Fishing boats knocked softly against their moorings like animals dreaming. Thomas parked with the same ceremony he used for boardrooms and funerals. 10 minutes, Adrian said. Bring only what breathes in salt. Elena almost laughed. What if I don't? Then the ocean will take it anyway. The boat that waited for them was the kind that came honest paint-scarred. Ropes coiled like sleeping snakes. A diesel heart that coughed before it steadied. The owner nodded at Adrian with the short, old language of men who had once solved something difficult together and then agreed never to retell it. They cut through the harbor mouth and into open water. Wind slicked Elena's hair back. The world's simplified horizon. Wake, pulse. Adrian stood beside her, not blocking the gusts, not shielding, just translating. Breathe with the chop, he said, and on the crest, out on the fall. She tried it. The nausea respected the effort and backed off a few degrees. The coastline unspooled headlands the color of verdict, coves like parentheses around secrets. A floating house appeared, shack and shrine, where steam rose from a kitchen that had never once failed to trust its own broth. Same as last time, the woman at the counter called, apron powdered with flour, the way years powder hair. Same as always, Adrian answered. Then, after the briefest hesitation, and another bowl, for my assistant. The word did its tidy work, the way he warmed the spoon in her soup before offering it did a different kind. They ate at a plank table with a view full of gulls and second chances. The crab arrived cracked and merciful. Rice steamed like a promise that didn't need lawyers. She watched him pick out a cartilage for her bowl and told herself not to watch his hands. What you did last night, she said finally, moving me out of that room, taking the couch. It wasn't chivalry, he said. It was correctness. Sometimes correctness is the kindest thing. He looked at her, then straight, present. You're safe, he said. No one had ever said it to her like a fact before. The words landed in her chest and rearranged furniture. On the way back, the weather forgot to be polite. Clouds built a wall. Rain snapped into being like a bad habit. The sea turned muscular. The boat's bow slapped and lifted, as if arguing with gravity's contract. Thunder spoke, not loud, close. She folded before the memory even finished arriving. A yard, a slant of roof, rain that didn't ask permission. Her mother's voice, knife and choir. Stay outside until you learn to keep your mouth shut. The cold had a history. So did the sky. Adrian shed his jacket and put it around her shoulders before she saw him move. Eyes on me, he said, low and level, as if he were teaching a child how to walk across a narrow beam. Not the water, me. I can't. You can, he said. Borrow my calm. The boat lurched. She pitched into him. His arm came around her with the efficiency of a safety harness. Not possessive, not timid, appropriate to the storm. It's just weather, he said again. In my house, she whispered. Weather had hands. He didn't answer with words. He answered by being a wall that didn't move. They docked into rain that had become intention. The owner of the floating house handed a key down like a blessing. The room upstairs was barely a room bed. Kettle, a window that decided what the light was allowed to do. Adrian got her under a blanket, filled a mug, put it in her hands, and only then allowed himself to sit. He coughed. Once. Again, the sound came from somewhere other men kept their pride. You're chilling, she said, reaching without asking. His skin was furnace and denial. Lie down. I don't, clause 0, she said. Surprising herself, he stared, then surrendered with a kind of grace. Bossy assistant, feverish CEO. She boiled water, wrung a cloth, learned the map of cooling foreheads. His breathing sawed for a while, then gentled in sleep. Men are either boys or kings. He was neither, just someone human enough to need help. At 3 a.m., the fever broke. He woke as if from far away and found her near, the cloth in her hand, her hair a dark sketch at her temple. If you wanted an excuse to touch me, he rasped, half in jest. You could have scheduled a meeting. I did, she said. It's in the appendix. He smiled for real, the quick, crooked, unguarded one she hadn't catalogued yet. Drive us home, he murmured, before I decide to be the patient who refuses discharge. Dawn was the color of cauterized silver. She took the wheel. He sat watchful and quiet, as if trusting someone else to steer. cost him more energy than he liked admitting. They reached the mainland at the exact hour when the world pretends it can begin again. Hospitals at breakfast time are their own religion ritual. Fear, coffee. Elena recognized the nurse by posture now, a kindness disguised as protocol. Insurance pushed back. The nurse said, "We can't dispense the next regimen without a guarantee." The sentence tried to be a question. Elena treated it like a door. "We'll have it by noon," she said, and walked toward the elevator as if walking were the same as saying live. She didn't see the woman until she felt the perfume expensive, restrained, the olfactory version of a signature collected over decades. They collided softly. Hands, apology, recognition. "You," the woman said. "From that night, you're the only one who thanked the caterer." Elena blinked. "You noticed?" "I notice what people think isn't for noticing," the woman said. And then, without preamble, "How much?" Elena tried dignity. The woman tried arithmetic. Arithmetic 1. "My son will wire it," the woman said. "And you will sign something that untangles whatever ropes your family keeps throwing at your neck." My mother, Elena, began and couldn't finish. The woman tilted her head. "I've been someone's mother. I've been someone's daughter. Both roles are better without chains." By sunset, a notary had witnessed the impossible paid in full. No further claims. Violet called her a traitor for not letting the debt continue its performance. Michael cried the clean kind of grateful. Elena stood in the hallway with the paper in her hand and felt both lighter and somehow priced. Outside, under the hospital awning, Adrian waited with the patience of a man who knew which battles required presence and which required a checkbook. "How much did it cost?" he asked. "Less than what it bought," she said. "And what did it buy?" "A door," she answered, "with a handle on my side." He opened the car door like he was trying not to smile. "Add it to the ledger," he said. "I don't keep ledgers anymore," she said. "Liar," he replied, almost fond. "You keep them in your bones." It should have been the last scene of the day, but day never pays all at once. Back at the hotel, Elena found her suitcase curated by malice. Someone had turned the smallness of being threatened into a hobby lipstick crushed under a heel, blouses refolded with contempt, a scarf stained by something sticky and intentional. Anger arrived clean. She carried the scarf to Melissa's door and knocked. The door opened on a stage. Melissa's face arranged itself into innocence with professional speed. "This," Elena said, placing the scarf down gently, "belongs to the person you pretend you aren't." "I don't understand," Melissa said. "You do," Elena said. You always have. She turned. Behind her, a thud, a sharp cry. She pivoted back in time to see Melissa sliding down the doorframe, one hand to her face, blood startling into the pale of her fingers. Two doors opened across the hall, audiences summoned by the gravity of a red thing. She hit me, Melissa wailed, because fear loves plural pronouns. Elena didn't flinch. Call security, and Mr. Cole, when he arrived, he brought the kind of quiet that remembers names. He didn't accuse. He assessed. Footage from this floor. He told security. All angles. 20 minutes backward. 30 forward. Melissa tried a new register. I fainted. Then we'll see you falling without help, he said mildly. His phone rang. He listened. The stillness in his face changed shape. Your brother, he said to Elena. We go now. I'll take a cab, she said. You'll take the car, he answered. To Daniel Stay. Speak in complete sentences. If this goes to HR, I want the first draft. They left. Doors closed. The corridor absorbed its rumor. On the highway, Elena's hands found a knot in her own skirt and worried it loose. Adrian adjusted the climate 2 clicks warmer, then 1 cooler, hunting the temperature that tells panic it doesn't need to perform. You don't have to, she began. Drive, he said. I do. It's the one thing nobody took from me. She watched the city release them into long dark. The dashboard lit their faces a color that doesn't appear in nature, some compromise between need and design. She closed her eyes. Sleep didn't come. Something like permission did. Thank you, she said. For what? For not narrating my life back to me. He smiled sideways. I prefer to edit. Outside, the road opened like a throat that had decided to sing. Inside, neither of them reached for the radio. Some silences are music. This was one. Night bleeds into morning fast in hospitals. The fluorescents don't let you bargain with the sun. Elena walked faster than the hour allowed. Michael was stable. The word was a stone she could stand on for now. Violet met her in the hall with a look that was either grief or jealousy. In that family, the two had learned each other's steps. So it took a stranger's money to make you a daughter, she said. It took my decision, Elena replied. That's what scared you. Everything scares me that I can't spend, Violet said. A doctor spoke the language of outcomes. Elena spoke the language of staying. She signed papers with a hand that didn't tremble, because it had already done so all night. Adrian waited near the coffee kiosk where life pretends to be solvable. He was reading a printout, security footage stills, time-stamped, the moral equivalent of proof. She fell on her own. He said, HR will still hold a hearing. They always pretend fairness means meetings. I'll attend, she said. You'll bring counsel, he replied. I'll bring the appendix. He almost laughed. You really are your own lawyer, only because no one else volunteered. He looked at her then, the way you look at a landmark after you've been lost too long. Are you hungry? He asked. Yes, she said, surprised to hear it. He bought her a plastic triangle of sandwich that tasted exactly like relief. While she ate, he checked his phone and frowned, like a man reading a weather report with a new symbol on it. What? Board acceleration, he said. Charles thinks 3 months is too generous. He's shortening my clock. And what does that do to me? She asked. Because clarity is kinder than fear. It makes you a target that has nothing to do with you, he said, which is unacceptable. She wiped a crumb from her lip, placed it on the napkin like a period. Then we make it acceptable to leave. He studied her. You'd walk. I won't be an anchor you're forced to carry, she said. I already know how heavy that is. I've been someone's anchor since I was old enough to fetch a belt. Something changed behind his eyes, not pity. Calculation bending toward care. You'll leave when you decide, he said. Not when pressure cosplays as wisdom. They drove back at noon. The security office had the footage waiting in a digital frame, looping Elena at the door. Elena turning, Melissa stepping backward without contact, the heel skidding, the cartoon banana peel moment without the banana. An officer looked relieved to see a story that wouldn't require courage. HR scheduled a meeting. Melissa brought a gauze-swaddled grievance. Daniel came with an attentiveness that had no price tag. Adrian watched the way men who've won too many fights learn how to keep their hands still. Do you want me to speak? He asked Elena outside the room. No, she said. You're the hurricane. I need the judge. Thomas writes better minutes than any judge I've met, he said. He'll sit in the back and notarize the air. She went in, told the truth like she was filing a report with herself. When Melissa cried, Elena waited. When Melissa hinted, Elena clarified. When Melissa implied motive, Elena left it on the table untouched, the way you leave a barbed gift unwrapped. In the end, HR said the sentence that means we'll delay the hard choice until time makes it for us. We'll monitor the situation after. In the lobby, Daniel bumped her shoulder with a brotherly ease she hadn't earned yet. You know what I like about you, he said. You don't beg the room. I don't have time, she said. You have more time than you think. He answered. She looked at Adrian over Daniel's shoulder. He was on the phone, listening to someone who mistook volume for leverage. He said no in a quiet that sounded like a legally binding document. He hung up and walked over. Pack, he told Elena. We're done here, with the account, with this version of us. She didn't ask what he meant. Some sentences you carry to the car like a fragile bowl and decide later whether to keep. At the hotel, her door had been reset to a neutral key. Inside, the air still smelled like someone else's perfume, pretending innocence. She folded the scarf, the one that had learned to wear contempt, and put it in the trash. Then she took it back out and washed it in the sink with hotel soap until the water ran a tired sort of clear. Some things don't deserve to be ruined twice. She told the mirror. Thomas knocked. Mr. Cole asked me to escort you downstairs, he said. I took the liberty of checking out the room I would not have put you in. Thank you, she said. I prefer prevention to apology, he replied. It makes for shorter paperwork. In the lobby, Daniel stood with 2 cups he didn't intend to keep. He handed one to Elena, the other 2 no one in particular. I'll meet you at the office, he told Adrian. I need to make sure HR files this under. We pretended to try. You're a good brother, Elena said. I'm a frequent one, he answered, winking, and left. The drive to the city was a different silence than the night before, warmer, like a room still holding yesterday's heat. Elena sat turned slightly toward the window, but she watched his reflection in the glass. The line of his mouth had chosen not to be cruel today. She felt grateful to a man who could decide that. My benefactor, she said after a while, the woman with the perfume and the ready wire. I don't even know her name. You don't need it, he said. Not all saviors want monuments. The good ones want you to save someone else. I will, she said. When it's my turn, it's already your turn, he replied. They passed the exit that would have taken them to the office instead of the kind of afternoon that scares boards. He didn't take it. Freedom, like fear, prefers momentum. By evening, she stood again in the house where she had learned the choreography of being unwanted. The living room was too quiet, the way rooms get when a TV has been shut off mid-argument. Violet perched on the arm of a chair like an apology that wouldn't commit. What now? Violet asked. It wasn't cruel. It was exhausted. Now, Elena said, I stop coming back here to prove I can leave. Violet blinked. And me. You start something too, Elena said, preferably without burning me down to keep the room warm. Violet breathed out a laugh that hurt. You always were better at sentences. I had to be, Elena said. They were my only witnesses. She walked to the bedroom where a few clothes still lived, as if closets could love. She folded slowly, not because she wanted to stay, but because haste is a language this house would have understood too easily. On the dresser, a photograph, 3 children in a summer that had looked like a promise. Michael's arm around both sisters, sun being kind, no mothers in sight. She put the photo face down, not to erase it, to ask it to wait, outside, by the curb. Adrian leaned against the car, looking like a man who could order a wind to change direction and be obeyed. He opened the trunk. He didn't ask if she was sure. He dealt with luggage like facts, no commentary, no mishandling. "What are we now?" she asked as he closed the trunk. "People who will see each other tomorrow," he said. "That's already a lot. And the day after, we'll renegotiate," he said. And there was something like humor in it, and something like prayer. He drove. The city received them with the slack jaw of neon. At a light, he looked over, not at her face, but at her hands, how they lay, open now, quiet. "You're not a crisis," he said. "You're an event. What's the difference?" "Crises demand evacuation," he said. "Events deserve witnesses." She looked out at a billboard advertising a happiness on sale. "Then stay," she said, "until this part of my life has an audience that won't boo." He didn't say yes. He turned the wheel in a direction that meant yes. There are debts you pay with money and debts you pay with courage. The first receipt sits in a drawer. The second keeps beating in your ribs. If someone tries to price your dignity, ask for a pen, write your own number, then walk out carrying only your name. 2 envelopes arrive on Elena's desk the next morning. One from HR formal inquiry, attached footage. One from Charles Carter's office 12-week clock reduced to 6. And on her phone, a third message. No one else sees a photo of the missing appendix, time-stamped in a room Elena never entered. Choose your battlefield. The text reads, below it, a single letter M